Hello, CBM Junkies. Chad Miller here with a very special episode of Comic Book Movie Reports. It is Avengers Endgame, and there will be plenty of spoilers ahead. The movie opens up with Hawkeye training his eldest child in archery, and it's a beautiful scene. You can kind of, really feel the family dynamic, and his wife is there, and the two younger kids, and all is going well, and then all of a sudden, and his family obliterates to dust. Next, we see the Avengers attacking Thanos, where he's in his little secluded place, and he's not doing so well, and they take advantage of the fact that he isn't doing so well, and he tells them that he has destroyed all of the Infinity Stones, so there's no way to get everybody back. And this infuriates Thor. Thor chops off Thanos' head, and whoa. Then we go to 5 years later. As we learned, Tony and Nebula have been aboard the spaceship for quite some time. Supplies are running out. Tony knows that, this is crunch time, so he's got his beat up little helmet and he's recording a video to Pepper. And just as it seems, as Tony is ready to pass, this bright light comes into view, and we find out that it's Captain Marvel to the rescue. So we are at Avengers headquarters, and everybody there is just basically kind of going through the motions as far as what happened after the snap. Certain people are doing so well, and others aren't doing so well, and they also know of this assassin, or actually more like a vigilante assassin, by the name of Ronin. And we soon learned that it's Hawkeye, actually. That was kind of not really a big, ooh moment by any means, especially with what they do afterwards. We also see that Scott Lang has popped out of the quantum realm, and as he goes to reunite with his family, he finds out that there's all these people that are dead, and he is fervently hoping that his daughter isn't one of them. So he eventually goes to her house and knocks on the door, and a much older Cassie is there and greets him, and it's a huge emotional reunion, and kind of hits at the heart. So Scott goes to find the Avengers, and he gets to the headquarters and whatnot, and they are trying to discuss some way, if at all possible, to rectify everything that has happened. And eventually they come up with the concept of using the quantum realm as a time machine. So they kind of gather this plan as far as what they're going to do and how they're going to do it, but they obviously need the other Avengers to take part in this venture. So they go off and find Hulk, who is finally balanced as far as his personas of Bruce Banner and the Hulk, and it's kind of culminated in a Hulk-like look, but he's got massive smarts still, so it's a nice little balance for him, and he's kind of become a little bit of a celebrity, and he is certainly on board with this, and that's pretty cool. Next, they go to find Thor, and this is not a pretty picture. Thor has gained a lot of weight, he's a massive alcoholic, and he wants no part of this venture. He is deeply damaged by the events and chopping off Thanos' head. So they eventually convince him to come along. So it's up to Black Widow to find Ronin / Hawkeye, and she eventually does, tells him that there's a better life, that he needs to basically help them out so he can get his family back and get back to being Hawkeye. So it is decided that the Avengers are each going to travel back in time to specific points to obtain the Infinity Stones. That way Thanos can't get his hands on it, and then everything will be okay. So in the past, we get to see some of the fun little scenes and exchanges from the previous movies, and we also get to see like little cuts of things that happened in between scenes that we've never seen before. And this really is cool because we get to see cameos of characters throughout the MCU. We get Frigga and Jane Foster on Asgard. There's the Ancient One, Robert Redford's Pierce. There's appearances by Loki. I'm trying to think of other ones. Oh yes, Howard Stark and Peggy Carter. Now on the planet that Gamora was sacrificed on via Thanos, I don't remember the name of the planet. I want to say it's Vormir, but correct me if I'm wrong. They're there and they're going to get that Soul Stone, and they don't know what's ahead of them. And for those of us who do, we're like, okay, what is going to happen? So they encounter the Red Skull, and he tells them the whole story that he told Thanos when he was there with Gamora. And so Hawkeye and Black Widow are sitting there going, oh, okay, we know what we have to do. Hawkeye thinks he's going to sacrifice himself. Black Widow thinks she's going to sacrifice herself. And then when they both realize what the plan is, they end up battling each other, and it's pretty intense because you know the stakes, and you figure it's going to go one way, and it turns out it goes another way, and Black Widow is gone. I really teared up in this section because, well, I don't think that Black Widow is one of my favorite Avengers. I mean, she has been pretty much, involved throughout the entire movies for the most part, so it did hit home a little bit. So Hawkeye has the Soul Stone, and they're going to put them all together. However, we have another pivotal moment here. So Nebula and Nebula and War Machine go to collect the Power Stone, and they're going back in time to right before Star-Lord acquires it. And so they're there, and for some odd reason, the future Nebula and the past Nebula sort of share like some weird little connection. And through that connection, Thanos learns about the whole plan for the Avengers. So he's like, okay, he collects Gamora and Nebula, and he decides that he's going to travel back in the past, destroy the Avengers before they can do anything with the Infinity Stones. So now, with all the Infinity Stones in the hands of the Avengers, Tony creates a special gauntlet, and they put the stones in it, and it happens to work, which is really awesome. Now, who is going to wear it? Now, while I think that Thor could possibly wear it, he's kind of still in a messed up place, even though he got peace with talking to his mother in the past, and he got Mjolnir back. And Bruce deduces that it would kill basically any human if they went to put it on. So he tries it on himself, and it's agonizing, it's horrible, and everybody thinks he's gonna die. And eventually it kind of gets corrected. So he is gonna be the one to wear the new Infinity Gauntlet. Now, with the whole Nebula, like in the present, in the past, all that kind of stuff, they end up basically how do I explain this? Basically, Nebula in the future swaps places with Nebula from the past So Nebula's stuck in the past while past Nebula is in the present time. And that's how Thanos really gets the gumption to go to the past and kill the Avengers before they can use the stones. And he wants to acquire the stones himself, obviously. So in the past, Gamora realizes what's going to happen if Thanos gets all the stones. And so she works with future Nebula to try to make sure everything doesn't happen that way. So Thanos attacks the Avengers, and it's this big old freaking awesome scene. And in the midst of all of that going on, Captain Marvel shows back up, and it's really, really freaking epic. So in this battle, it soon is discovered that Cap can wield Mjolnir and the sword, I forget the name of the sword that Thor carries, but eventually, like, Thor gets to use both, and it's really cool. So due to all these events, like, all of a sudden these magic portals show up, and pretty much everybody from the MCU comes blasting through them, and it's freaking epic. And some of the best parts were Wanda cutting moves like freaking a boss. It was so cool. And T'Challa shows up, and his action sequence is freaking awesome too. And at some point, like, all the female characters get together, and that is really awesome. And during the battle, Thanos gets his hand on the gauntlet. And as things go on, eventually he loses it because of Tony. Tony puts it on and snaps his fingers, and Thanos and all the baddies turn to ash. So, as Hulk said earlier, he didn't believe that any of the human characters could wield the gauntlet without dying, and we find out that that's the case. Tony's not in a good place after all this, and Spider-Man and Pepper Potts give a very tearful goodbye to the character, and hence the tears flow. Now that everything is all right with the world, we have Tony Stark's funeral, and for the most part, there are basically the main players in the MCU, including Janet Pym. There was also some kid, or kind of like late teens, early 20s kid, and it isn't really explained who he is, but I'm assuming that it was the kid that Tony befriended in Iron Man 3. Thor splits off, and he joins the Guardians of the Galaxy as they depart and go for parts unknown. Past Gamora is also with them, so that kind of creates a weird little dynamic between her and Star-Lord, because he thinks she's Gamora that's been returned to the regular timeline. However, it is not. So that kind of really makes me excited for the next Guardians of the Galaxy movie. They then decide that Captain America is going to go back in time and put all the stones back where nobody can get them, I guess, back to the origin points, which to me kind of doesn't make sense. Well, yeah, now that, well, shoot, I don't know. That's kind of really confusing to me. So when they're ready to call Captain back, there's nothing. There is nothing. Like, they can't find him. They can't get him. And so Bucky and Falcon notice somebody sitting off in the distance, and they both go to confront somebody. That's somebody. And Sam sees that it's an old Steve Rogers. And he basically passes on the mantle of Captain America to Sam, which I think is really, really awesome. It is then that it is basically told that Cap went back to his original 1940s time frame and basically got to be with Peggy and marry her, and he and she ruled together. So that was really touching. of tears going on there, which I didn't quite so much. Not that it isn't important. I think it was a great way to send Cap off without killing. And feel free to share what you think is going to happen further in the MCU. Do you think it's going to be as great as the original Avengers lineup is or was? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this video. I know it was a little bit long-winded, but there was so much that happened in that 3 hours. So take care of yourselves, and love and lights to you all.